Don't you just love it when a plan comes together? I said on my last video that the more focus you have on a dream or a goal, the more opportunities come to you. And that's starting to happen in the form, this time, of information. So obviously I'm trying to put together my retirement plans. I'm drawing up a budget. I'm looking at mileage that we're going to be doing when we're towing the caravan, touring around the country. I'm looking, and what that might cost me. I'm looking at what I'm going to do with my tax-free lump sum, whether I'm actually going to take my tax-free lump sum or all of it. Not sure entirely, so that the plan is very, very fluid at the moment, but this is definitely happening. So some new information I've come across. Now, I know a lot of people have said that I should take financial advice and should sit down with a financial advisor, and I concede that that may have been a good idea. However, who wants to pay £2,000 for a financial advisor when all of the information that a financial advisor will give you and all of the calculations and projections and everything else is all available online? You just got to know where to look. Now, I'm a big fan of AI in certain respects, and in planning my retirement next year, and my wife's and my retirement next year, I've been number crunching. I've been looking at all sorts of tax implications and different drawdown techniques and everything else from my pension. And so what I've done is I've created an agent with ChatGPT. You can generate an agent, and then what that agent does is basically becomes a financial advisor. So it knows all of the financial planning certificates. It knows the content of what every financial advisor will know. And it will be no worse than a real financial advisor. It will ask the questions. It will ask the right questions. It will then give you like an overview and a summary of the whole discussion, and then give you some tips on how to sort of maximize your savings. So I'm going through that. It's taking a long time, but I can spend as much time as I want, and it's free. Well, I say free, I mean I pay for ChatGPT, that's about it. It's 20 quid a month. So that has given me some massive insight into how we can really maximize our pension, how we can still get tax relief as well, which is something I'm going to cover in a second. And I've started to put a plan together on what the drawdown will give me when I put my pension into drawdown. Now, quick update if you're here for the first time. I'm retiring next year. I'll be 55. I can access my personal pension. I'm selling the house. Hopefully I have about 100k equity, and I've got about 150k in a pension pot. We're going to travel around England in a caravan. I've got to buy a tow vehicle, and then we're going to settle in France by buying a cheap property. If you want to know exactly what's happening, go back over my previous videos and I explain it all in more detail there. Right, so that's the summary. So to get us through the next 9 months, we're struggling to make our mortgage payments, I'll admit that, and we're on an interest-only mortgage, as I've previously said, and the payments are about the rate has just gone down. The Bank of England base rate has just gone down, but our payments monthly are £740 a month. We had a bit of reprieve for a while where we were able to pay a little bit less because I negotiated with them. I really didn't want to go down that route because, you're talking almost repossession territory there. But they reassured me, they gave me a plan. So now I'm behind on payments. I'm in arrears by £900. Now, I didn't really want to say that in public, but do you know what? What the hell? It's going to work out absolutely fine. I know it is, because it already is. And things have changed. Things are changing on a daily basis, and things go up and down, but they're improving massively on almost a daily basis. So what we've done is we're now on a plan to pay that arrears back, which means that we've got to pay back £840 a month, say. So it's like over £100 a month to clear the arrears over nine months, at which point we'll then look at selling the house. Now, I know some people have said, well, what if you can't sell your house? Do you know what? At this stage, I'll just keep knocking that price down until someone, even a builder, just snaps it up as an absolute bargain, and we'll still make equity, because there's just no way that we would end up selling this for just what the mortgage is. I don't think. The house isn't trashed, it's clean, it's much more up to date than it was previously. It just probably needs a little bit of work on it. Anyway, that's not what I wanted to talk about on this video. What I did want to talk about on the video was the plan I'm doing. So I've knocked up an Excel spreadsheet to work out my drawdown after tax-free, the 25% tax-free, and then over how many years it's going to last me, kind of thing. Now, a lot of people have said, no, 150k is just not enough to live on, right? Well, our plan is to have a budget of £1,000 a month. Now, it might be slightly more, it might be slightly less, but if we're budgeting on £1,000 a month, my wife has a pension of £400 a month coming in, which she took some years ago, early, and I just need £600 a month or so to top that up, which is £7,200 a year. So I've based my calculator on that. Now, what I haven't told anybody yet is my wife's age. I don't really want to introduce my wife to the channel or anything just yet, because this is something I do. But my wife will be 60 this year. Now, that probably changes a few things regards to calculations in the future, because she'll be able to receive her state pension at 67, all being well. This is assuming there is a state pension. Okay, this is what we're working towards. I'm now going to start factoring it in. I know some people have said, oh, you'll never get a state pension, they'll abolish it. Yeah, I don't know. You know, there would be massive uproar, and I don't think they can make any major changes. I think it's written into law that they can't make any major changes without 10 years notice. So I think we're safe for the moment, hopefully. So assuming we're going to get a pension, she will receive her pension in 7 years. Now, 7 years from next year. So I've got £150,000. I will be taking, if I took the 25% tax free, that would be about 37,500, I think. It would take me down to 112,500 in the pension pot that I've got to live off. Out of that 37,500, we'll be purchasing a truck, which I've allowed 15,000 for budget-wise. So hopefully it'll be a Ford Ranger. I've really got my heart set on that. I know a lot of people are against it, but just to reiterate, it's not the one with the wet belt, okay? It's the 3.2 litre, and the oil pump issues can be replaced for 160 quid for free by my friend who works on 4x4s all day long. And he's a mate down at my boat club. So really handy person to know. Anyway, that's the budget for that. We've got to pay some debts off, and then what we're left with should keep us should give us an income of at least that 7,200 for a year, possibly even 2 years. Let's say a year. So in the modelling, what I'm doing is I'm modelling over 6 years before then we receive my wife's pension. Once we get her pension, which will be about £800 a month, I think, or possibly more by then, I would assume, because they go up with inflation and everything else, but in current money terms it's £800 a month. I will then receive my pension in 6 years after that. So total of 12 years, so I'm 55 next year. Yeah, 12 years I'll be 67, so that's 6 years from when my wife gets the pension, and that'll be another £800 a month. And then once we've got those two, that'll be £1,600 a month, plus my wife's pension of £400 a month, will be £2,000 a month. By that time we should be in France, hopefully. Right, so I've put together a sort of a separate video of going through my little spreadsheet, and so I'll show you that now. And then come back to you. You'll have to forgive the sound, by the way. The sound is slightly different, so you'll hear a change in sound because I'm using a different microphone recording the spreadsheet. Okay, so I'm in front of my screen now. Just wanted to show you this quick calculator that I've made based on the HL pension drawdown model, and also some other models that I've seen online. So my lump sum amount is, assuming 150,000. I'm hoping it's going to be more than that. And then this figure here is after, well, 75% of that, so it's after the 25% tax-free has been taken off. So that's what I'm left with. Okay, so the 25% tax-free amount I'm going to be using to purchase the tow vehicle for the caravan, clear some debts, and then put into possibly an ISA. So I will then be able to use that for the first at least year to top up my income. Now, my income that I need to draw down is 7,200 a year, which is 600 a month. I've assumed here a rate of gain of 5% per annum. The reason for that is because on HL's modelling, they say that if the inflation rate is at 3%, then the rate of gain, because if inflation is high, then rates of indices are higher as well. It's just the way it works. So, you know, it's not like, you know, inflation is going to eat into your savings regardless. They'll eat into your savings rates, but if the stock market will generally perform better during periods of higher inflation, it's just the way it works. So 3.5%, I've gone for a conservative 5%. The rate of gain should be slightly more than that, but I'm going with that. What I've also included as well is, so I've got a little function here. I've taken off enough for fees, and I've allowed for 1% to account for fees from my investments and from the HL SIP management fee as well. So based on that, we've got, I've put the term of 0 in for the moment. I need 7,200, which is 600 a month. We're going to try and stick to a budget of £1,000 a month or thereabouts. It might be slightly less, it might be slightly more. So this is for the first year while we're in the caravan. Then we've got 7,200, that's 600 a month. My wife has a pension of 400 a month currently, so that would be the 1,000. Annual withdrawal of 7,200 from a pot of 112,500. So now, working out the term, again, what I haven't accounted for before is state pension, and at the moment it looks like I'm going to get it when I'm 67. So that will be so when I'm planning on retiring, 55 next year, that will mean it will be 12 years from next year that I would receive my pension. So as I've mentioned, my wife is 60 this year, will be so then she will get her pension at 67. So 7 years time she'll get her pension. Now the term in here that I need to last for is actually not going to be necessarily 7 years, because I will still have some left over from my 25% tax free. So if I put 7 years in here now, the modeler says that I should have 65,000 capital remaining based on a rate of gain of 5% per annum, taking into account inflation and also the fees. So let's go for a lower rate of gain. So that's over 7 years. I don't need 7 years. Let's say 6 years. Let's go with 6 years. Leaves me with 72,000. Let's go with a rate of gain of 3% per annum, which is pretty shoddy. Even with 3% and 3.5% inflation, minus my fees, only 7,200 a year, I still have half of my pot left. So all these people saying you haven't got enough, you're going to run out of money way before, it's probably because I didn't give them the full information of when I'm going to be receiving pension. So that's when we'll get my wife's pension, which is going to be about £800 a month. I think the state pension is currently. Might be different in 7 years, hopefully. In fact, it probably will be. And then we can then live on that. We've got another 6 years or so of this money still left, or I can draw it down in larger amounts, and then only need so literally another 6 years, and then I'll get my pension, which will be another £800 a month or so. So we then have £1,600 a month plus the £400 a month pension that my wife has for life. So that'll be £2,000 a month. By that time we'll be in France. Right, so hopefully that made a bit of sense. I'm going to develop an app, possibly. I play around with apps on Android only, but I'm going to try and do an app. I've searched online. I've got loads of different apps, financial modelers and stuff, but they're not very user friendly, and they're not sort of as basic as what I need. And so I'm going to possibly do something on my phone that I can do and model when I'm either making videos or when I'm out and about and I want to check my figures. That's the plan anyway. So the other thing I forgot to mention is I am not a financial advisor or financial planner. I know we have financial advisors and financial planners watching the channel. If you still are, thank you very much. I appreciate your advice, appreciate all your comments. Yeah, it's just to reiterate that I'm not giving advice at any point at all. So, what's right for me is certainly not right for everybody else. But if you do enough research and you gear it to your situation, then you can usually find out pretty much everything you want. Now, the information I was talking about that I came across was tax relief, and this is something a financial planner or financial advisor would certainly go through with you if you sat down with them. But as I said before, I'm not paying £2,000 for that. I found it online. Probably a little bit too late, to be honest, but that's another different story which I'm going to cover in a second. When we're retired, or even before then, but let's say when we're retired from next year, if you're not earning, or your earnings are less than, say you're doing, I don't know, part-time job or something like that, and your earnings are less than £3,600 a year, you can actually get tax relief on up to £2,880 per year. So what that means is, if we've got, a pension, so let's say my wife has a pension coming in from an annuity, if she was to pay a proportion of that pension into her SIP for example, up to 2,880, she would get tax relief of 20%, so they would top that up to 3,600. So she'd get £720 per year tax relief, which is kind of free money, if you like. I know somebody said there's no such thing as free money, but you get the point, right? So that works out 720 over the year. That's £60 a month. If we both do it, that's £120 a month. So all these little things add up and will make a big difference to our lifestyle and to our security, financial security, when we're retired. Now, the reason I've found this out is we've been looking into it to make all these payments and everything else on the mortgage where we're behind and stuff like that, and just to get us completely up straight, which we will do now. My wife's taken on a part-time job. She didn't work before. We chose to do it like that, and we were trying to live very, very frugally. But again, the mortgage got out of control, the interest rates got out of control. We didn't want to fix it because we didn't want to have a big charge when we paid it off. The plan was always to sell the house and pay the mortgage off, unless we won the lottery or something and paid it off early. But I didn't want thousands of pounds charge, and it can run into the thousands. I know because I worked in a bank for 13 years. I know how that works. So she's got a part-time job. Now, because her earnings kind of gross, I suppose, would be up to 12,000 or so a year, even though she's triggered what's called the money purchase annual allowance on her pension, or the MPAA. Because she's triggered that, she can pay in up to 10,000 per annum and get, it's 8,000 or something like that, and get 8,000, and she can get £2,000 tax relief, so 20%. The government makes that up. So if she was to pay a proportion of her wages up to 10,000 per year, sort of over the next 9 months or so, then she would get an extra 2,000. So this is all money that could be added to the pension pot, and she could even withdraw that money from her SIP. There can be an issue with that, which is called recycling, and HMRC look out for that on a very, very small scale. It's not going to trigger anything really, but I was thinking, in principle, she's got £1,000 left in her SIP from her lump sum. What if she was to draw that £1,000 out, pay it back in, draw it out, pay it back in, just keep doing that? That's called recycling. HMRC will do an investigation and they will stop it and tell you off and stop any kind of tax relief you can get. But if it's done in a way that looks like it's coming from normal income and it's just kind of normal transactions and everything else, and it's all pretty small and it's under 7,000, I think, then it's not going to trigger any alarms. So you can, and I'm sure all the MPs, all the politicians do this on a much larger scale and get away with it. So, little old us, I'm sure it'll be absolutely fine. I will get some advice from HL on that, because both our SIPs are with HL. And I'm not encouraging that one iota, okay? But it's just something that I'm still looking into. I don't know all about it, but tax relief, if it's money that the government want to give me for paying into a pension, then absolutely I want to maximise what I can get back from that, because that will all add to the pension pot. So I said I based it on 150,000, but it's already slightly more than that, and I'm hoping that it will grow. So every 1,000 extra is going to be money that we'll have left in the pot. So what I was going to say was about being a little bit late in the game to find all this stuff out. And of course, my knowledge has been accelerated by the fact that you've got AI now that can do deep research on things. You've obviously got the internet, which I grew up in a time when there was no internet, no mobile phones or anything. But apparently there's a young millennials movement called the FIRE movement, which is FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. I can't really see much evidence of it, to be honest. There's a wiki page on it. They talk about lean fire, fat fire, coast fire, and barista fire. Sounds cool, doesn't it? So lean fire is basically living very, very frugally so that you can live with a smaller pension pot and still retire early. Now that's me, I think, if you want to categorise us. Then you've got fat fire, which is where you aggressively save, literally 50% or more of your earnings go into pensions so that you retire way early, in your 30s maybe, on a high income and live a lifestyle of relative luxury. Then you've got coast fire, which is kind of a combination of the two. You let the you aggressively go in, pay into your pension, and then get a return, and then let that return do the rest, and then you coast after that. And then barista fire is having a part-time job. So retiring early when you probably haven't got quite enough to be financially independent pension-wise, but then have a part-time job. So I'm sort of in between that and lean fire, if you like, I guess. I'm sure some people will say I'm no fire, but I'm doing this anyway. So that's a quick update. What I will be doing is my next stage of planning is going to be really narrowing down my budget of trying to keep within £1,000 a month. It's something that we are going to have to test on the road, literally, and we'll keep I know a lot of there's some other channels where I've seen where they keep a diary literally of every single expenditure, and I think that will be certainly something I'm going to be doing, and then we can report back on that and let you know whether we're over budget or under budget or dead on. I hope that new information makes sense, and probably does change a few things. When I'm looking at it and the projections and everything else, it's not as bleak as it seems, because after reading some of the comments I kind of thought, let me take a look at this in a bit more detail. And a lot of you are quite right. I really need to crunch down the numbers and everything else. I was almost like, okay, I've got 150 grand in the bank, I'm going, that's it. And yeah, if I didn't manage it right, probably would run out of money and be left crying. But that's not going to happen. It looks like we're going to be pretty okay. And even if I didn't have state pensions coming in, my money would last on that budget until I'm 79. So it's going to take me most of it, as long as I can stick to budget. Of course there'll be other expenditure, there'll be things I want to buy. I might need some new camera equipment and a few other things, but so if my pension performs a bit better and I end up with more than 150,000, as I said, every £1,000 is extra is a bonus, which I can use to get stuff that we need when we're on the road and everything else. So I've had to talk really quickly because I don't want these videos rolling over. I could talk for hours on this subject. There's so much to look into, but it's all good fun. It's a really good learning process. But the main thing is that my focus and the dream is so intense. It's so intense now that nothing will just detract me from it, and so I'm finding more opportunities and more. I'm out there on my bike doing deliveries and stuff. End up talking to people. I end up talking to a lot of retired people because a lot of them are using e-bikes, and it's it's brilliant just seeing all these people around. But I'm chatting to people. I'm chatting about what they did in retirement. I'm learning loads of stuff as well just by talking to people on the ground. You just never know where that nugget of information is going to come from. But it ain't going to come from a financial advisor that I pay £2,000 for. Anyway, in the meantime, thanks to everyone who's subscribed. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe if you want to follow our journey. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next video. Cheers.